right, we're about to start. I'd like to welcome everyone who came tonight. I know there's great interest, and this board is very interested in hearing what our residents have to say and others. And so with that, Madam Clerk, Christie, if you would call the roll.
Yep. Trustee Prigi. Here. Trustee Husani.
Here.
Trustee Gutierrez. Here. Trustee Porter.
Here.
Trustee Kemper.
Here.
And Trustee Bancoli. Here. Everybody is present.
Very good. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Very good. Motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Christie, call the roll.
Any changes?
I heard none.
So,
Are you pulling? Are you changing?
yes. So I'd just like to remove 7A1, 7A2, and 7A7 from the consent agenda.
1, 2, and 7.
Anything else?
Anyone
That's
else?
all.
Roll.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Husani. Yes. Trustee Gutierrez. Yes. Trustee Porter.
Yes.
Trustee Kemper.
Yes.
Trustee Bancoli.
Yes.
And Trustee Prigi.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good. Presentations. I will just read a little thing for public comment. If anyone from the public wishes to address the village board concerning issues relevant to public business, you may do so. There are 2 ways in which to address the board. Either way will allow you up to 5 minutes of time to do so. First, if the matter concerns an item on the agenda, you'll be allowed to address the board when that item comes before the board, but after the board members have had an opportunity to discuss the item. Second, if the matter is not on the agenda, but involves public business, you may address the board closer to the beginning of the meeting under town hall session. Also, if a matter is on the agenda and you feel you will not stay until the item is read on the agenda, you may address the board at the town hall session closer to the beginning of the meeting. Please address all comments to the board as a whole and not to individual members. We do not debate public comments. With that, village president's report. And I'd like to thank the staff for their outstanding support with the Cops Day picnic, town hall session. Oh, I come after that. I skipped over town hall session. Well, you'll get to hear my repeat. Anyway, Christie is in charge of town hall session, and you have items that were mailed in for town hall?
Yes, I have 15 messages that were emailed in to the town hall public comment submittal online. So I'll start with Joseph Cruham. If the village of Hanover Park has banned assault weapons, it will be sued and it will 100% lose. You're violating state law. Even if you create the rule, it will have 0 effect. Why make laws that have no effect? Megan McGeet says, I applaud Hanover Park in joining our communities, such as Naperville, to rid our towns of weapons of war that have no place in our family communities. It takes courage to stand up for what is right, and I thank Hanover Park for taking the step to make us all safer. Jenna Leaving Jacobson, Hanover Park should ban the sale of assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. A growing body of research shows that prohibiting assault weapons and high-capacity magazines can reduce gun violence. States with restrictions on magazine size experience mass shootings at less than half the rate of states without restrictions. Until we have a statewide ban on those deadly weapons, Hanover Park will be doing what it can to help protect its citizens from violence. Kelly of Oak Park says, limiting the sales of assault weapons benefits not only Hanover Park, but the surrounding communities. Please do all that you can to make Chicagoland a safer place to be. Sandra Shimon of Oak Park says, I strongly support the assault weapon prohibits. Catherine Turnman says, high-powered semi-automatic firearms have 4 times the velocity of a handgun. This means that each round of assault weapons inflicts greater damage to the human body than a round from a typical handgun. Assault weapons are generally designed to fire rounds at a greater rate than other firearms, and when combined with high-capacity magazines, they enable a shooter to fire far more shots in a shorter amount of time, doing more damage to flesh and bones than a pistol. When assault weapons are used in mass shootings, averaging more than 11 times a week in America, 6 times as many people are shot. Please ban assault weapons to protect all our communities. Reverend Mark Winters from Naperville says, I commend the Village of Hanover Park for considering banning the sale of assault weapons within the village. Someone somewhere is planning the next mass shooting right now. In order to carry it out, they are going to need a gun. How will you feel if you wake up one morning to the news alerting saying that they brought the weapon in Hanover Park, at the point by which you could have halted the sales of this weapon? We can do something about mass shootings. We can stop armed mass shooters. Deborah Donovan of Berwyn says, I am excited that Hanover Park is considering a ban on assault weapons. This is so important. We need to be safer in schools, churches, stores, parks, etc. I personally do not think any civilian in our country needs assault weapons. I feel the citizens need rights too, not just gun owners. Thank you for your bravery, Deborah Donovan. William Manton says, you may or may not know this, but I am the director of Gun Rights for Illinois. I am also a former Village Trustee Development Commission member and vice chair at current fire department volunteer and longtime village resident. I am serving this village for a better part of 30 years. I am in close contact daily with the Illinois State Rifle Association, Guns Save Lives, Inc., and other groups. My email and my phone number are not meant. My email and phone are not to mention Facebook is blowing up over this protest ban on the sale of AR-15s and other rifles. I am opposed to the proposed ordinance prohibiting the sale of semi-automatic rifles in the village. This ordinance will not do anything to prevent any violence. It is obviously a publicity stunt, either to forward your public careers or to be able to say, we did something. There are many court rulings as well as the state laws denying you the authority to enact and enforce such ordinance. I will strongly urge you to read the entire Berwyn, all 135 pages, decision before proceeding. Pay close attention to Clarence Thomas' comment. The intent there is clear. I would point out that post-Buren, the test for gun control laws and the ordinance is, we hold that when the Second Amendment plain text covers an individual conduct, the Constitution receives protection to conduct. To justify the regulations, the government may not simply pose that the regarding promotes any important interest. Rather, the government must demonstrate that the regulation is consistent with the nation's history, tradition of firearm regulation. Only if a firearm regulation is consistent with their nation's history, traditions, may a court consult that the individual conduct falls outside the Second Amendment. The New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, Inc. versus Buren. Further, in the Illinois Association of Firearms the Chicago ban on gun shops was ruled unconstitutional, as the right to acquire a firearm was part of the Second Amendment specifically said. But one on the other side of this case is another feature of the government. Certain fundamental rights are protected by the Constitution, put outside government reach, including the right to keep and bear arms for self-defense under the Second Amendment. This right must also include the right to adequate of firearms, although the right is far from absolute. There are many long-standing restrictions on who can acquire firearms. For example, felons and the mentally ill have long been banned, and there are many restrictions on the sale of arms. For example, leasing requirements for commercial sales. This is a fine welcome from the new Range USA facility as well. Most of you know the village has been trying to redevelop the corner of Bartels and Lake for over 30 years. We finally get a visible development, and what do? A chain store that will simply sell the rifles to people from another location. This is if they even decide to open in Hanover Park after this. If this passes, a coalition of Illinois gun rights groups is going to move forward with a federal civil rights lawsuit. We won't make the same mistake made in the Esterday versus Deerfield case and file in Illinois courts. We are aware that the village will likely be required to pay out not only your legal fees, but those of each of the plaintiffs. Courts will not take pity on you when you use your power to violate the civil right of the citizens. Like it or not, the United States Supreme Court understands and appreciates the Second Amendment and interprets as the founders needed it. I know we need to keep the guns out of the hands of prohibited and dangerous people. We all agree that. Tuesday night on Court Tribune, the police arrested a violent suspect on parole. He was in possession of a firearms. One way to show Hanover Park is tough on violence would be to turn the individual over to ATF to be charged as a federal prohibited person and profession of firearms, and not give them a slap on the wrist from the local judge. When the dust settles, let's sit down and discuss meaningful ways to stop violence. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, like mental health. I have many ideas on people with your sphere of influence could go a long way to do good things. The symbolic ordinance is not going to do that, and you will know it. You are a fool's errand that will end in disaster. Not only will the village face a long, drawn-out civil lawsuit costing millions, but light of the willingness to abuse your power prohibit time the voters your home rule authority. There are enough members in the NRA in their village that they alone could provide the necessary number of signatures to get the measures on the ballot. In this economy, a referendum proposing lower taxes might easily pass. Your decision, your vote, will have consequences. Back in the 90s, the village board decided to fight a lawsuit filed by Mr. Redlin. We took the advice of the legal counsel to cost out $7.2 million caused to float the bond issue and implement a new tax to pay for it. Having once sat in your chair on the very dais, I urge you to act with the best fiscal interest of the village in mind. Alrighty. Allison Lipsman says, I am writing to support the assault weapons sales ban. I am writing as a mother of deemed action whose community includes Hanover Park. Thank you for your consideration. This important measure to keep our community safer. Julie Mortensen of Elk Grove says, I think all the communities in our area should be working to make sure assault rifles are not in the hands of civilians. These weapons are of war. Having the weapons available to everybody is helping in killing our children. Patricia writes, I think we need to create more laws for both sides. We need to think of our community's security. People are dying because of these guns. Kevin and Beth Sawa, in the interest that tonight's board meeting will be discussing the ban of AR and other sport rifles. We are opposed to the ban. Since the board recently approved the license for the new Range USA and training facility, we are confused by the potential ban. Probably 50% of their inventory is AR-style rifles, which would have a very negative effect on this business. We would also like to know if existing rifle owners would be protected by a grandfathered provision should this change be enforced. As this ban would only affect Hanover Park residents, we would like to know what the village would hope to accomplish in such a ban. Yina Yu, thank you for taking gun safety seriously in our community and valuing human life over weapons of war. Local lawmakers can and should take action in the wake of Highland Park shooting and gun violence that impacts Illinois residents. It's time we address the real issue, which is access to these rifles. Assault weapons are weapons of war and should not be able for public consumption. In the United States in 2009 and 2020, the 10 mass shootings incidents that had most casualties had involved a firearms that had high capacity magazines, an assault weapon, or both. So I am very pleased that Hanover Park is leading in the fight to prevent gun violence. Please move forward and pass this proposal ordinance to regulate the commercial sale of assault weapons and large capacity magazines. And the final one from Kyle Witt. He says, this shouldn't be considered or passed for length of reasons. 1, constitutional rights. No, not for hunting. 2, assault is a verbal, not an action that can be carried out by lifeless objects. 3, this will do 0 on crime as most are committed with pistols, rifle, FBI. Number 4, this only affects the law-abiding citizens, not citizens who could care less about the laws. 5, passing a feel-good act don't help anything. So it doesn't bring attention to the issues causing crime with these to happen. Broken homes, poor schools, support, abuse of medication, etc. And lastly, number 6, the broad stroke, these lesser bills used for far more than it seems. We citizens of Illinois can only pose semi-automatic rifles unless this is 1 bullet for every 1 trigger pulled. How the firearms look is irrelevant unless the board proposes we start judging based on looks. We do not remote airbags from cars because people get hurt. Same thing. Firearms are a good net good when you look at how many it saves. I can go on, but I am limited to how many words I could type. And that is all the write-ins
Thank you.
for Town Hall,
She was limited.
apparently.
Mr. Manton was not.
I know.
Okay. It's, want to thank all those that sent that in to be read at Town Hall, which has been our COVID norm, and so we read those at Town Hall. Others that want to speak on this have a numbered submission with the clerk, and when we bring up the agenda item, you can speak. And with the board's support, we'll let the president speak before we discuss on the item when we get to it. President's report. Well,
Yes, Town Hall.
Does anyone want to speak at Town Hall? We just got through that. Do we have anybody signed up for Town Hall? Christie?
He'll be reading during the agenda item.
Is there anyone who wants to speak on something that's not on the agenda?
No, not that I'm aware of. Anybody that wants to speak on anything that's not on the gun control. That's just on the agenda.
Okay. Oh, we're good. Moving on. My turn. I want to shift gears here a little bit. I want to thank staff for all their quality work, supporting all the events we've had recently. And this weekend, we have another big event, our car show on Sunday, from 9 to noon. People that have cars are demonstrating on, whatever you've signed them up for. We'll be setting up until noon, and then we're open at noon for all the youth to come in and folks come in and see all the cars. We now have 22 show cars
Yeah.
from
Midwest
Midwest.
Car Stores, yep.
Midwest Cars. So it's going to be quite a nice event at our train station. And I'm excited about that and looking forward. We have more people registered early this time than previously. So that should be a nice event. So I want to thank all the staff in advance. It takes time to set everything up. So with that, I'll move to approve by omnibus vote items on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
So those are items 7A3, 7A4, 7A5, 7A6, 7A8, 7A9.
Okay. 781.
Can I take a vote?
Oh, yeah.
Trustee Gutierrez? Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
And Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. 71, move to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of June 2nd, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Yes. I would like to make a motion in which a portion of my trustee report is amended. There is an incorrect statement there, and so I'd like to read the correct statement into the record.
What portion do you not want? Is there a portion in here that you want deleted?
Yes. So if we're going by June 2nd, we're doing it by report, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Second.
So that would have been page 19, or I'm not sure how you have yours numbered, but it's in my report, second paragraph, fourth line, 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth line. She spoke to gun violence and banning the sale of assault weapons by the new gun range via the passage of an ordinance. There needs to be a clarification that this is a village-wide ordinance that is not associated with a business. And so I can provide you with the correction.
So do you want that sentence deleted?
Yes. And I'll provide
And you want something else substituted for it?
correct.
What are we deleting?
So then
So is that your motion?
well, I want to provide the correction. I can do that now, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right, okay. She spoke, are you ready?
Yeah,
Okay.
go.
She spoke of concerns about gun violence in our country, the introduction of the sales of assault weapons in our community via a new business, and requested that village staff explore an ordinance in which the sales of assault weapons are banned within the village. So that's June 2nd, and then I have one for,
Only one for this one. This is the first one.
oh, okay.
We'll.
So is that what was said?
That's her motion.
Oh, that's her motion. Oh, okay. Thank you.
second it.
Discussion? Hearing none. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Abstain.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Brigi?
Yes. Yeah.
Those are yes. Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay.
7A2, move to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of June 16th.
Do I need a roll call for as amended?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
There's no
Roll
fur-
call
if
is
there's
amended.
no further discussion.
Any further discussion before I take roll call for as amended? Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Brigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, now go ahead.
I got confused by everybody
9.
calling you that.
Okay.
7A2, move to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of June 16th, 2022.
So moved. Second.
Discussion?
Discussion?
Yes. So, this is in regards to the June 16th minutes. Where I'm looking falls under the village manager's report. I have page 24, but that might differ for you.
12.
Oh, right. For you, it might be page 12. So fourth paragraph, starting with trustee Bancole. The second sentence, she asked that village attorney Paul draft an ordinance banning the sale of assault weapons by the newly established gun range. That is what I would like removed, and I have the amended statement.
Go ahead.
She repeated her previous request from June 2nd by again requesting that village staff explore an ordinance in which the sales of assault weapons are banned within the village.
Discussion?
Is there a second?
Second.
Now discussion?
Any comments, anyone?
No.
Hearing none?
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Brigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
No.
Or-
Motion to amend.
Yes. Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Brigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
And Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Motion carried as amended.
Thank you.
7A7.
7A7, motion to approve an agreement with Baxter and Woodman for a water and sewer rate study in the amount not to exceed $32,925 and authorize the village manager to execute the necessary documents.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Anyone?
Yes. So I read through the study, and I'm glad that we are conducting a water and sewer rate study. I wasn't aware that the last one occurred in 2007, and I think a lot has changed since then. So I was looking at how the study will be conducted, the methodology that will be used, and I noticed that on page 133, Baxter and Woodman essentially provides their welcome to the village. They give a brief overview of the services that they will offer, and they talk about how they will provide fair and equitable rates for our village customers. They then go to talk about the different criteria that they will use to determine what a fair and equitable rate will be. But I was wondering if when this study will be when this study will occur, if Baxter and Woodman will look at the median income of our residents. I didn't see that there, so I don't know if that's going to be considered. And I ask just because we've had several discussions as a board on about water, about how water is a necessity. I'm very sensitive to raising any sort of rates regards there. I know that this is a study to determine that, but I want to make sure that everyone's income level across the board is included in that, just because I've stated before,
I can speak to
you
that
know,
if you want.
water is not a luxury. We all need water to survive, and I want to make sure that our residents will be able to pay their water bills and have access to water, so.
It's not specifically outlined to that detail in the proposal. TJ can speak to generally how they'll approach the study.
Okay, thank you. And so as far as the equity portion goes, and I can speak historically sort of broadly about how these studies occur just writ large, if you will. There's a balancing. And so when they say equity, typically what they're referring to is the equitable distribution of the burden. So that's the rate. And so historically, the way that water studies have worked is when they have focused on that, it's really been a focus on looking at the distributed impact of the water system. So for example, in here on page 137, I believe, they talk about the sort of the 3+1. There is the residential user, which in nearly every community, and for the most part, every community, residential users are always going to make up the wild majority of the users in the village or in any municipality. Then there's the commercial and the industrial. Now, commercial and industrial, although typically they make up a relatively small portion, it could be that they cause a disproportionate, or they use a disproportionate amount of water, or that they disproportionately affect the demands on the water system. Say you have an industrial user that uses a lot of water. So you could have a water system that is now very expensive because it has to produce a very high volume of water, but you have many, many more residential users, and if that is distributed evenly, I think you can make an argument, and I have made the argument in the past, that that isn't necessarily, and to use the more modern term, equitable. Typically we would refer to it as fair. There's a disproportionate impact because of commercial users, or industrial users usually are the biggest offenders for that sort of thing. So when you think of a water rate study, that's kind of the first thing that comes to mind is how is that burden being distributed between residents or we'll say commercial users. The next thing, sort of the +1 on that, is very often there is maybe a senior discount. Now, the challenge with that is when you look in at, say, for example, the median income, it might not necessarily be median income is necessarily the best barometer for that, but it could be that there's an income qualification and some verification methodology and then a discount associated with that. That could be something that is a part of this. We are going to be looking at all of those things. Typically, though, the income qualified is, I'm not going to say it's unheard of, it's not unheard of, it's fairly unusual. It's not as common, maybe that's a better way to say it. What is more common is possibly a senior tier, is what I believe they refer to it in here as. That's a little bit more common. But these are examples of things that we're going to be looking at, including because, and in this case, we're kind of fortunate. Baxter does a whole lot of these in a lot of different communities, so we're going to have the advantage of the breadth of their knowledge in doing these, both in recent memory and both contemporaneously.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. So just to clarify, income will be a determining factor in their study.
I wouldn't use the phrase determining factor. I would say as we sit down and work with them in looking at the broad scope of what we're going to come what we're going to look at about how different water structures could look, that could be one of them. That as they sit down and look at all of the different data that we're capable of getting, that could be one of them.
Okay. Is that something that they would be willing to consider, or our team would be willing to consider? I am just very concerned when it comes to necessities. You know, water is just such a necessity, and due to inflation, everything is increasing. And so I just want to make sure that this necessity stays affordable for our residents, and that's taken into consideration when we are talking about the scope of equity. I understand that there are a couple different definitions of equity being used as well.
Juliana, or do you want me to do that?
So is,
We will ask them to look at that factor and tell us, as Director Moore said, from their experience of doing these studies, putting those studies together, how they have or have not built that in factor, whether that is something that can be put into a model. And this is a model, as you mentioned earlier, the last time we did this was 2007. These are usually models that go over a long period of time. And so, the main purpose of this is to tie into the long-term planning of the capital needs of the community and to set the rate appropriately to then be able to pay for the infrastructure that can provide that. So
Okay.
we will have to, I can't, at this time, prior to the study happening or taking place, tell you what the recommendation would be. They will come back to the board, they will come back to the board with their methodology and their recommendations, and you'll have an opportunity to have a discussion with them.
okay. But from our standpoint, before they present their final report, can the request be made?
Yeah, I understand that the board's concern, as you're outlining, and it was outlined earlier in our discussions of water rates, so we will explain to them that that is an interest of the board.
Okay, thank you. That concludes my questions.
Okay, thanks. Unfortunately, the city of Chicago is going to be raising our costs 5% a year. It doesn't help. Nothing to vote on, just pass the, Christie, call the roll, please.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
And Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. 7A10, move to pass an ordinance authorizing the reinstatement and First Amendment to the real property purchase and sale agreement for the sale of property, Hanover Square Shopping Center, and the outlot parcel UG Necessity Retail Fund 2 LP, a Delaware Limited Partnership. 3/4 vote of the corporate authorities required.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Questions? Hearing none?
And this requires a 3/4 vote
Yep.
of the corporate voters.
Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Mayor Craig?
Yes. 7A11. Okay. We have 21 folks that like to speak, and then we'll have some board discussion. Discussion regarding an ordinance regulating the commercial sale of assault weapons and large capacity magazines by adding a new section 66-17.5 to chapter 66 of Municipal Code of Hanover Park.
So we're going to have you, when your number is called, please come up to the podium. If your number is next, they're going to go in numerical order. So just be kind of over there by our officer, hanging out over there as on deck so that we can make this go as quickly as possible. And you each will have 5 minutes. Once the 5-minute timer goes off, I will mute the mic on the podium, and that is it.
No, it's discussion.
We're good?
We don't need a motion.
Okay, awesome. Whoever has number 1 located on the top right you can come up to the podium for us and just make sure you speak clearly into the mic and give us your name and then any info from there.
Good evening, President Craig and trustees. My name is Anne Marie Suter. I am a resident of Downers Grove and Second Amendment advocate by accident. I witnessed a robbery, one of my neighbor's homes getting burglarized, and not Downers Grove, back when I lived in Berwyn. And I had witnessed, called the police. They caught him. I identified the man. My identity was not concealed from the gentleman that had robbed my neighbor's house, and he started stalking me. My husband travels a lot for business, where he's gone for 6 weeks at a crack, and I have 4 children, who at the time were small. My youngest was just under a year old. My oldest was 9 years old. I was responsible for their safety. Several times when I had called the police, because there's a lot of activity coming down the Ogden Avenue corridor, it took the police time to get to my home to respond, or to get to the home of a neighbor where I saw something was being committed. With that man stalking me, I felt it very necessary to take my safety and the safety of my children into my own hands. I started with handguns. Well, criminals have become emboldened. They work together. Further down the road a few years, my alarm was triggered at 2 o'clock in the morning. And of course, my husband was out of town, and I had to worry about my 4 children. I would have wanted something with a firearm that had more of a capacity than 10 rounds of ammunition in it. Okay. Fortunately, they did not breach my door, and the police did get there, and they scouted. The alarm was enough to scare them off. But having 10 rounds of ammunition and having to reload, I could do it quickly. I practice. But my children's safety is at the forefront. Being able to purchase a firearm to protect my family is important to me. And with all of the anti-police rhetoric as of recent, people have to take their safety more and more into their hands, because more and more municipalities have fewer and fewer police to do the job. And more crime, sadly, is coming out of the city into the suburbs. We've had carjackings midday in Downers Grove. We have very affluent families living there, and we have very low-income families living in Downers Grove. Nobody's immune. So I ask you to please oppose the sale of so-called assault weapons, or oppose the ban on the sale of the assault weapons. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi,
Number 2?
thank you. I'm number 2,
Thank you. What's your name?
Pip Tegmeyer. I live next door in Carroll Stream, and I would like you to vote no on the thing on the agenda. According to USCCA, which is United States Concealed Carry Association, mass shootings only account for 0.1% of firearm homicides, and only 0.5% of the deaths every year. Most of them, 56% of mass shootings, are done by handguns, not assault rifles. And from 1988 to 2019, more than 85% of mass shootings have occurred in gun-free zones. So instead of banning the commercial sale of assault weapons in large capacity magazines, education, firearms training, enforcing red flag laws might be the better avenue to take. We also need to review the safety protocols in schools, public places, and especially gun-free zones. The mall shooting in Indiana recently is a prime example of a good guy with a gun saving many lives when a shooter started opening fire. Bad guys with intent to do harm or going to obtain firearms and weapons in any way possible, legal or otherwise. Banning the commercial sale of assault weapons will only change the ability for law-abiding citizens to purchase firearms for their protection. Pew Research indicates that in 2020, handguns were involved in 59% of the 13,620 murders. Assault weapons were involved in 3%. So mass shootings with AR-style weapons get a whole lot more press than what the actual statistics show. So I do urge you to vote no.
Thank you.
Number 3?
Do you have a name?
Number 3? Number 4? No, because they're turning them in when they get it.
Good evening. My name is Mark Banizak. I am going to speak in opposition to the ordinance. I would like to preface with, number one, I'd like to thank all the law enforcement officers here today and in all of our communities. And some of my remarks are not meant to disparage them, but only to indicate some of the facts on the ground. As of recent, over the last several years, we have seen a massive movement of defund the police, which has resulted in a very low morale in our law enforcement officers, as well as chronically low rates in filling vacancies within these departments. The Chicagoland area is no exception to this, and I have many personal friends in local villages that are in law enforcement that can echo this as well. In looking through this ordinance, my first concern at it is, as reading the recent passing of the House bill in the U.S. Congress, this bill looks very much like a copy and paste, and of the same concerns are there as are with there. The arbitrary nature of this, these definitions, things as, my apologies, I lost my place. Things as defining them as using the force of a round to eject and load another round, define basically 96% of all firearms sold in the United States. This ordinance in and of itself would basically ban any firearm within the village that is not a revolver, and it would limit people to the ability of 6 rounds to defend themselves. I am an 11-year veteran of the U.S. Army and specifically of the military police, and I have witnessed firsthand what guns can do. But what I'd like to tell you is I've witnessed firsthand 100 times fold more bats and guns and fists and bottles can do, yet I don't see that in here. The statistics for crime within the Chicagoland area, and specifically within the village of Hanover Park, do not warrant the overreach of this particular ordinance, as again, I do not see anything to list out the percentage of crimes that have been committed with so-called high-capacity assault rifles. The definition of assault rifles in and of itself is arbitrary. Things defined as assault rifles are no more than a standard hunting rifle wrapped in scary accessories. And that does not warrant an assault rifle. As a veteran of military, as a veteran of Desert Storm, I can tell you what a weapon of war is. I have witnessed firsthand a weapon of war. And the weapons you have listed here to ban, again, are arbitrary and are not weapons of war. The majority of these weapons are owned by law-abiding citizens, not by criminals, although criminals do possess them. In Illinois, as a firearm owner and or if you can carry a concealed weapon, for a firearm owner, you are required to undergo a nightly criminal background check in the state system to determine if you have violated the terms of your ability to have a FOID card. If you have a concealed weapons, you are also, every night, also get checked through the mental health system. The problem with these types of things is over and over and over again, in all the incidents cited here in the mass shootings, specifically, I'll reference the nearest one, which is the Highland Park shooting. They had a ban in place of the assault rifle. There are red flag laws in place. The owner of the gun obtained a FOID, although under false pretenses. The state police and the city itself had multiple contacts with this individual, yet failed to coordinate the system that is supposed to protect its citizens. Yet time and time again, we see the punishment and the restriction of the rights of those who are law-abiding citizens. I am a member of the USCCA. I am a member of the NRA. I am the member of the the Illinois State Rifle Association. I read the statistics. What we hear is a lot of hyperbole about statistics because, again, as a former speaker here just presented, it makes the news. What you don't hear about is the 100-fold increase in the number of people who were able to defend themselves because they were able to legally possess a firearm and defend their family and or friends and businesses. But we want to restrict that. We want to take people's rights away. Yes, there is fear about this, and that's natural, it's human nature, but we're exploiting that. What we're not doing is addressing what we're doing to fix it. There is nothing in the ordinance discussing how we're going to support within the village the enforcement of the red flag laws. There's nothing in there how we're going to work to ensure that those things get brought to the attention. And at the same time now, we put our officers at risk. Every day they're at risk because we fail to act, we fail to prosecute criminals. Half of this village is in Cook County and is emboldened. The criminals are emboldened by a state's attorney who refuses to prosecute criminals. There are federal statutes that enforce sentencing for criminals when they use firearms. Yet, time and time and time again, they're refused. They're allowed to plea down, they're allowed to walk away with a slap on the wrist, and in many cases, especially in Chicago, they're allowed to put an ankle bracelet on and walk around and be free to do whatever they do again. In many cases, the recidivism rate is through the roof. It is time for the village to address the criminals in our community. It is time for them.
Okay, your time is up. Thank you. Thank you. All righty.
Number 5? Thank you.
Boy, that's a tough one to follow. Good evening. My name is Lori Blackwell. I'm from Lakeville, Illinois. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm the Illinois Director for the DC Project. We're a nationwide organization of women safeguarding the Second Amendment. We are nonpartisan, and we come from all walks of life. Many of us are here tonight to voice our opposition to the proposed ban of the sale of AR-15 style rifles and other semi-auto rifles, pistols, and shotguns. This ordinance is virtually word for word the same as the one recently proposed in Naperville. Most of us were at that meeting also. I believe that these feel-good, reflexive efforts that will do nothing to deter crime and serve only to impinge on the rights of legal gun owners. And didn't Range USA just open in June here in Hanover Park? Do you know how many multiple millions of dollars it takes to open a modern range in a retail center? I truly believe that most people that create gun control laws actually know very little about guns. Firearms are merely a tool. They are inanimate objects. We're all entitled to our own opinion, but not to our own facts. In the first paragraph of your ordinance, it states that assault weapons, which truly is a meaningless term, are dramatically more likely to be used in the commission of serious crimes than other kinds of weapons. Even though we all acknowledge recent events are fresh in our minds, and it's painful for all of us. In reality, rifles are used in fewer murders than fists, knives, and hammers combined. In the second paragraph of the ordinance, it states that the President and Board of Trustees of the Village of Hanover Park find that assault weapons provide little or no legitimate sporting purpose. Do you realize that there are over 24 million legally owned modern sporting rifles in the United States, and that 60 million of us Americans participate in shooting sports yearly? Also in the second paragraph is the statement, and I am paraphrasing, that assault weapons and large capacity magazines are not necessary for self-defense when other suitable weapons are available for said purpose. Actually, a modern sporting rifle is ideal for home defense. It's adjustable, lightweight, it has minimal recoil, and it's easy to shoot accurately. It's actually ideal for women and people with disabilities. As far as magazine capacity, I feel it's not the government's role to tell me how to protect myself or my family or my business. Home invasions, as has been said, often involves multiple criminals. 30-round magazines are actually standard for this type of firearm. On page 11 of the ordinance, it lists the cosmetic features that make a rifle banned. Things like a handguard, a grip, or an adjustable stock really have nothing to do with the functionality of the rifle. These features are for the comfort and safety of the shooter. It's really no different than having adjustable seats in your car. I could go on, but I will stop here. Please, just listen to your constituents tonight and don't get sucked into the firearm banning frenzy that's making the rounds again. We need to focus on enforcement of current laws and prosecution of the criminals in our society. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Number 6. Number 6.
Hi, my name is Greg Stickles. I moved to Hanover Park in 1992. I'm not what whoever proposed this, I'm not a person that they would think it was a gun nut. I did grow up in Southern Illinois, and I got my marksmanship merit badge in Boy Scouts with a .22, which is basically what a .223 is. And I owned my first gun. I still have it, a shotgun that I got when I was 13. I was remiss as a parent to teach my daughter to appreciate and respect guns and to teach her gun safety. My guns stayed locked up in a closet most of the time. So all she learned was fear from the media, from the government, and from school. As far as the assault rifle that's been touched on, there's no such thing. It's a term used to create fear. And by reading this, they're using the term semi-automatic the same way. They're trying to invoke fear. And it's basically semi-automatic is one trigger pull, one bullet. One of the most laughable things that I've heard recently was the parent of a person that was broke into somebody's home. They were complaining that the homeowner had an unfair advantage because they had an AR-15 rifle with a 30-round magazine. And I thought that was the most ridiculous thing in the world. There's no such thing as an unfair advantage for a homeowner facing someone breaking into their home. And when I think about a single mom with 3 kids trying to fend off 3 armed home breakers, I want her to have the most capacity as she can possibly have. Now, as far as this ordinance, I've already experienced the inconvenience put on the citizens of Hanover Park because we're partially in Cook County. Palmetto State Armory would not ship my upper for my AR-15 to my home in DuPage County because Hanover Park is partially in Cook County and they didn't have a system to distinguish the addresses. So I had to drive 30 miles to a friend's house to pick up my upper. But I still have my AR-15 and I still live in Hanover Park. So this accomplishes nothing. All it does is inconvenience the citizens, and it doesn't do what it's proposed to intend to. As far as mass shooters, I see them as mentally ill cowards that would go in and shoot unarmed people. And I think we need to address that and not gun ownership or gun sales. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 7? Number 7, would you like to come up? 8? Number 8? Number 9? No? Oh, there we go.
I'm going to give this a shot. My name is Robert Olson from Hanover Park. I oppose this ban. I don't think it's going to do what you imagine it to do. This is a common firearm that's used. The people that I'm sitting here thinking of all the things to say before I get up here. It's just, it's not going to work. You just recently opened a range in Hanover Park. It's only been open for 3 months, maybe. Now we're talking about banning 90%, 80% of their product. Just doesn't make any sense. That's about all I got to say right now. Thanks.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Robert. Number 10?
Good evening, everyone. My name's John Davos. I live in Schaumburg, right down the street. I took an oath in 1995, very similar to an oath that you all would have taken to support and defend the U.S. Constitution. The Second Amendment of the United States Constitution reads, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." I'm just a man who wants his rights respected by his government. Now, I know I don't live in your town, but you would still affect me because I won't be able to buy these particular things that you want to ban in your town. I'd like to buy them legally, please, from the store that you just opened, apparently. So that's great. I really like the fact that Hanover Park has this store here, but I'm kind of worried about the kind of ban that you want to apply to them. Now, these things that you want to ban in here, they are considered arms. The Supreme Court has spoken about this recently. They confirmed in the Heller decision and the Bruin decision that these things are arms. The ammunition that goes with them, the accessories, everything that goes with that right. So I would hope that this council can respect that right. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Number 11? 11? 12?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time, board, officers. Thank you for your service. I in no way can follow, my name's Timothy Litwin of Schaumburg. I in no way can follow anyone that has come up here prepared with the statistics. I would like to expound on what some of them have said. I believe that this is greater than just this ordinance. This is a worldwide thing, in my opinion, for all the marbles right now. It leads to something much greater, much bigger than all of us. And I just ask that, I'm in opposition of this bill. I just ask that you strongly consider both sides of the argument instead of just one-sided facts. Consider all the other studies out there that of the opposition, the actual facts also. There may be facts on each side. You know, it's not just all, you know, there's shades of gray and everything. Everything isn't just one side or the other. I'm nonpartisan. I'm in the middle. I'm all for our freedom. I imagine everyone here is also, and I would like to implore everyone, I don't know how many people, now I may sound like a right-wing nut here just by bringing up this name because I guess he's been labeled as one, but he makes good points. There's a 10-step outline for taking down America. Anyone know who Robert Welch is? Does anyone? Anybody here?
Please address the board.
Oh, I'm sorry, board. I apologize for that wholeheartedly. 1958, 10-step outline for the destruction of America. We're at step 10 right now with everything going on in the world. I'm getting a little offline instead of just the gun ban here, but like I said, this is greater. This is greater than this. So I really strongly hope you consider the ban. Anyone that wants to watch that, if you can still find it online, even 1958, Robert Welch, 10 steps. We're at the steps of appeasement right now where we comply, and that's what takes everything down. And I see this and many other attempts at taking away our freedoms and our legal gun ownership. Not to mention, it's not fair, it's calling us untrustworthy as well at the same time. Taking away our legal gun ownership is gonna be a step of appeasement by the boards, by the, no offense, by the people in charge of making and setting the policies and stuff. That, in my opinion, is a step of appeasement. That is gonna be somewhat responsible for the 10th step and final step of that outlined plan. And that's all I gotta say, other than I agree with the word assault in front of things. It's, rifle's an inanimate object. We can put the word assault in front of a pillow and ban those. Ban anything. Put a assault microphone. But it's all a step of appeasement, and we're falling for it. If we want to believe everything that comes out of, in my opinion, the greatest terror weapon in the history of mankind, greater than all the nuclear bombs put together, we can listen to everything that comes out of those boxes, day in and day out, which a lot of people have, and they've unfortunately fallen into what's called the mass formation psychosis, and that's exactly what it is. And I won't go on any other subjects like the COVID, but that's where we're at. It's dividing families. The goal is to destroy the family unit. They're very successful, and it's spread on down the line to the local government. So I just beg you to please oppose this and other things like this that are going to be responsible for taking away our freedoms in the long run. And no offense, Hanover Park, I think you're a great community, but one thing that concerns me is the TV screen here, America's global village. I see a lot of agenda in that word global, and I pray that it doesn't fall suspect to that. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Number 13. Number 13. 14. Come on up.
Good evening, everyone. I didn't prepare a statement. First off, my name is Christopher. Last name is Cox. Thank you for everybody coming here, pro and against, I suppose. I will keep this as short and sweet as I can. I would oppose the ban for a number of reasons, but chiefly opposing this ban now, if we let this ban go through, it sets the stage for other bans to go through. You know, we ban the sale, then we ban the gun, then we ban something else, we ban something else. It sets a very bad precedent for bad policymaking based on reactive decision-making. I get it. What happened at Highland Park sucked. It was terrible. It's reprehensible. But passing bad policy is going to make it that much more reprehensible because, face it, bad guys don't care what good people do. And putting bad policy in place just makes it easier for bad people to do bad things. So, in a nutshell, we can find other things to get behind. Let's not get behind this assault weapons ban. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 15.
Good evening. My name is Tony Gustafari. I do live in Hanover Park. I thought I was going to have a really hard time saying everything I wanted to say. Most everyone here has already said most of it. I mean, the bottom line is criminals, by definition, murderers and criminals, do not care what your laws are at all. They don't. So taking away our ability to legally defend ourselves from people that don't care about the law and blatantly disrespect it and overstep it on a regular basis will do nothing but cause more innocent lives to be lost. Aside from that, most of the arguments that I hear for gun control are all based on emotion. All of these people, you know, they have suffered a tragedy, they've lost people, and I get it. Their feelings and their opinions come from a place of love and compassion, and that's great. But compassion has no place in lawmaking. It can't. If we allow our compassions to rule us, we will burn ourselves down every time. We must vote discompassionately. I guess the only other thing that nobody else has already said is, well, no, just to reiterate, our Constitution is absolute. Our president just recently said it wasn't. That's, I don't know. I don't understand how anybody can feel that way. Our Constitution is absolute. That's what our founding fathers meant when they wrote it. Benjamin Franklin said that anyone willing to sacrifice a freedom for a sense of security deserves neither. I'm willing to die for that, as many other people are. And our Constitution very clearly says, shall not be infringed. The existence of the FOID card is a form of infringement. It's a little bit more acceptable because I do think that does provide a little bit of a filter. And it gives people, you know, the security of knowing that somebody who owns a gun has done something. To carry, I just went through the class recently. That is a brutal class. I understand what it means to pull a trigger on a weapon. And I pray to God I never have to do it. But if my life is in danger, or my family's lives are in danger, I hope I'm legally allowed to have the tools that I need to protect them. That's all I have today.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
Number 16.
Good evening. My name is Jim McGrath. I am here to deliver a message from the Illinois League of Women Voters. I am the gun violence prevention issue specialist for the state of Illinois. And the League has established a position statement on many issues. One of the issues is assault weapons. So I'm here to convey the League of Women Voters Illinois position on assault weapons. This is not something that they just come up with recently. This has been a position for decades. The League advocates restricting access to automatic and semi-automatic assault weapons by private individuals. These weapons present a clear and unequivocal danger to public safety. Therefore, the League believes it is essential to restrict or prohibit the possession and sale of manufacture, importation, transportation of semi-automatic assault weapons for private ownership. Additionally, the sale of ammunition for these weapons should be restricted as well. Just a comment, I've heard some comments tonight about the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is not absolute, which is the implication to you guys.
Please, please.
Yeah, I was quiet when you guys talked.
Oh, please, address.
There's already restrictions on it. For example, you can't own a machine gun, you can't own a bazooka. So I'm here to say, please vote to approve this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 17.
I didn't prepare a speech. Good afternoon, Mayor and the Trustee Board. My name is Delphine Cherry, and I am the lead for Brady United, Illinois. So I come to you guys, I've heard a whole lot. I've lost 2 kids to gun violence, 20 years apart, not with cinematic auto rifles. But I had the experience of meeting a young person after the Douglas High School Parkland shooting. She came and spent a summer with me. See, they talk about we have a right to own cinematic auto rifles. But they don't talk about the effects that it does to the body and how it impacts people when they're shot by.
It's on. It's on.
Do I get closer? Y'all turn me off?
No, it's on.
So y'all don't want me to speak?
No, it's on.
Okay.
I hear you
So
now.
everybody here to get up, and I respect what they said, but they never told you the impact of what these RA-14s or 15s does to a body. Just like he talked about Highland Park. I visit Highland Park. I visit the victims, the families, the impact on their body. Let me get back to this young lady that spent the summer with me that came from Douglas Park High School. This whole summer, she was doing fine until 4th of July. She started hearing the firecrackers and she went into a rage. And I'm trying to figure out to this young person, what is going on with you? She literally told me, with that weapon of mass destruction, that she hid up under her classmate's body to save her own life. And when she got up, she was taking the mask of their bodies off her face. So this is what this gun do. Nobody talks about the effect of what this automatic weapon do. They're just saying it's a sport. You're right, people have a right to own whatever they want to own, but we don't need automatic weapons of mass destruction with the impact of what it does to a body. And that's all I have to say. I'm Delphine Cherry. I am from Hazel Crest, Illinois. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 18? 18? 19?
Good evening. My name is Shannon Goodrich. I'm a mother of 3 school-age children, 13, 9, and 5. I support the Hanover Park assault weapons ban and thank Hanover Park for its leadership in bringing this motion forward. I'm a member of Moms Demand Action, which has more than 68,000 members in Illinois alone. We support measures that prevent gun violence. Gun violence is a disease in the United States like no other country in the world. Did you hear about the shooting and subsequent lockdown only hours ago at the Mall of America? Many of the visitors were visiting from out of town and had no idea how to exit the area. Look at today's Daily Herald. Murder. Highland Park. Guns. This is our community. Banning assault weapons in Hanover Park is the right decision. In situations where there are mass shootings, the carnage is extensive when there is an assault weapon involved. Many of the weapons utilized at mass shootings are purchased legally. The Highland Park shooting is one example. Yes, we can improve the laws and fix the void. Yes, criminals will find a way to find a weapon, but laws still matter. And we should limit access to weapons, and this is what your ban does. I agree with others who spoke here this evening about utilizing red flag laws and safe storage. But when these laws fail, and they will, weapons of war kill far too many human beings far too quickly. Assault weapons are not needed in self-defense. Assault weapons are excessive. Assault weapons should be banned from ever being allowed for sale in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 20? Number 20? 21?
Hello everybody, my name is Michael DeSider. I was born and raised here in Hanover Park. I've lived here my entire life. I'm also a professional target shooter. Was part of the Junior Olympics.
Please address the board.
Sorry, I'm addressing the entire town here. I'm actually a professional target shooter. I've been born and raised here. I'm newbie to violence. When I was growing up here, I was bullied and beat up and harassed my entire life. And did any of those gangbangers or anybody have a gun? No. They were just in a group going through Ann Fox, Einstein, down Knollwood, down Kingsbury, beating up every little kid that they could find. Was there a gun in their hand? Was there a knife in their hand? No. It was a group of them. And thank you to all of our officers that actually had to walk the streets every night to make sure that we were safe. Were there any guns there? No. And you know what the town actually decided to do? They took the basketball hoops down. And what happened? The gangbangers went to Einstein and started picking on the little kids during their recess time, or going to Ann Fox, haggling them for money, trying to sell them drugs. Were there any guns involved? No. Were there any knives involved? No. It is not a problem with guns. It is a problem of upbringing and allowing these individuals into this town that do not behave like average citizens. We call the police, okay, looking to get help. My neighbor, broad daylight, 3 p.m., house broken into, calling the cops. Nobody comes up. They come back later that evening, about 7 p.m., break in again. Now she's scared and she's coming banging on everybody's door asking for help. Do the cops come? Nope. Were there any guns? Not a single one. Any knives? Not a single one. Violence will not stop in this town just by outlawing the sale of assault weapons. Violence will not stop in this town by outlawing anything. Violence will only stop in this town if we increase our police force, increase the patrolling, and increase the programs that are going to allow these children to stay off the streets. Increase the programs at the community center for them to go into basketball, go into programs that are going to allow them to be a part of the community. I've seen so much violence in this town that has never been a part of guns or anything. Why? I've been asked to be quiet about the gun shooting facility being built from 2 years ago, just for re-election purposes. Now all of a sudden we're going to ban it? Well, that seems really ironic. So I don't have much more to say except I think we're going about this the wrong way, and we should readdress our resources to things that will actually benefit the community as a whole and not target single individuals that are, like myself, you know, shooters and outdoorsmen and people who simply just want to be a part of the community. So again, I think we could go about this a much different way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have 22?
I think we've had the course.
23? Tish, do you have 23 in your hand?
I do.
Does
Okay.
anybody else that didn't have one want to speak? Go ahead.
My name is Miguel Molina. I'm actually from Whedon, but I think this is a issue that affects everybody, and it's happening all the time, gun violence. So I actually grew up in South Central Los Angeles and constantly saw what gun violence did to my community. I actually survived a drive-by because in the middle of the day right there, they're shooting with automatic weapons, seeing if they can get the opponent. So I am in favor of banning assault weapon because even though I grew up in the worst neighborhood, not once did my family feel the urge of getting a weapon to protect ourselves. Not once did I ever feel that urge of getting a weapon to protect myself. Because in the end of the day, the community always came together to protect ourselves and look after each other without the need of a gun. In the end of the day, we always have we always had our neighbors who knew the other gang members, and we told them about what was right and what was wrong. I come from the criminals that many of these people are talking about and live with them, interacted with them. I grew up with them. In the end of the day, it was that access to that assault weapon that led to many deaths of my friends in those communities. That community, you can say, is exactly what Chicago is. And I also lived in Chicago. And I also grew up with the same fear. But in the end of the day, it's the access to guns that is the issue, and is the access to gun that will keep killing my people that were my friends. And it's the access of guns that are taking away the life of little kids. And that is why the banning assault weapons right now more than ever is a necessity to save life. Because in our Constitution, life, happiness, and freedom are what makes America. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else that needs to? Let's go with the gentleman in the back, and then I'll come up to you. Is that okay? Thank you.
Are we out of numbers now?
We have them. I just didn't fill the papers. You'll be number 23. Come on up.
I can't look like you're 23.
Don't worry about it.
I'm Bill Manton. I've been a long-time resident of Hanover Park. There was a time when I sat where you sat and where you sit today. I wasn't going to speak today. I sent in my written comments because I wanted to give everyone else a chance at the microphone. But there's a couple of things that I think need to be addressed that I've heard in. There's a lot of misconception regarding these weapons. AR does not mean assault rifle. It never has meant assault rifle. It stands for Armalite rifle, model number 15, designed in 1957. That gun has been around that long. There are at least 24 million of them in this country. And yet, a Bureau of Justice Statistics survey by the Obama administration says that only 7% of all criminals who use firearms in the commission of a crime bought them legally. Every other one was purchased either through a straw purchase or most likely stolen. As a matter of fact, 8% of firearms were originally in the hands of police and somehow got into the hands of criminals. Now, I'm not pointing fingers at police, but this is just a statistic. And if you want statistics, you've got to look at that one too. The fact is, in the United States, the average response time for a police officer is 6 minutes in an emergency. We have a saying in the gun rights community: when seconds count, the police are minutes away. So it behooves everyone to take a long, hard look at this, because self-defense and the right, as people have said, the right to live is guaranteed by the Constitution, and the right to defend yourself is as well. Passing this ordinance will do nothing. Okay, you're talking about one business in this town that sells firearms. And all they're going to do is they're going to sell that firearm and tell you go to Villa Park to pick it up. Because Hanover Park, we can't let you pick it up here. You're not going to stop it. You have other arms dealers in this town. They're on the list of federal firearms licensees. I've used several of them for transfers. To the gentleman who said you can't own a machine gun, I'm sorry, you're wrong. Machine guns can be purchased legally by any law-abiding citizen if you're willing to go through what it takes to buy one. And that is starting with buying a tax stamp and going through a background check. In about 3 years, you can pick it up. But you can do it. They are legal to own. So this country has never made it illegal to own any arms. With that, I'd ask you to reconsider even thinking about this ordinance, because, very frankly, it's not going to do anything. What it is going to do, it's already a violation of a Supreme Court ruling involving the city of Chicago. The city of Chicago were sued because there were no gun stores in Chicago. They didn't allow them. Supreme Court said, sorry, you have to allow them. Sorry, you have to allow them to sell sporting rifles, handguns. You can't ban handguns. You can't ban sporting rifles. You can't ban anything. Courts ruled that. The Bruin decision is even more widespread. That recently coming down, the Naperville ordinance was already underway before Bruin was even given. So you need to read that before you do this. You're setting yourselves up for a disaster. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bill.
I know we have our friend.
And we have our last presenter.
Oh, there's two more.
Oh, two more, okay.
No, you can go ahead first.
Go ahead, you're halfway there.
Hello, I'm Kathleen Dooley. I'm a 23-year resident of Hanover Park, and, you know, I'm really just, you guys have such a great opportunity. You just opened up Range USA in Hanover Park. You're doing all these great things for the community. Join up, educate people. Instead of taking people's rights away, why? What, you know, I mean, sorry, I've been up since 3, so I'm really tired. But instead of saying no, that's such an easy way out. No, you can't do it because you're going to hurt somebody. Well, so what? The people that are hurting people don't care. They're still going to get their guns. I'm sure many of the gun owners that are here tonight and opposing this bill don't do anything illegal. The people that are doing things illegal aren't here because they don't care. They just don't, and they're still gonna do it. So that's what you guys have a great opportunity to educate the community. and partner up with Range USA. You know, we belong to a women's organization for shooting, and it's empowering. It's, you know, it's just to do something different. So thank you. And
Thank you.
please vote no.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Last person?
Hi, my initials are YY, so I guess it's fitting that I'm last. My name is Ina Yoon Yu. I'm a volunteer leader with Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense for the last 6 years. My kids are ages 8 and 11. Thank you so much for bringing forward this proposed ordinance to prohibit the sale of assault weapons and large capacity magazines. The recent tragic and traumatic shooting in Highland Park and the constant gun violence in our state makes clear inaction is not an option. Local lawmakers can and should take action in the wake of the Highland Park shooting and the daily gun violence that impacts Illinois residents. Let's talk about assault weapons, because that is the focus of the proposed ordinance. Assault weapons and high-capacity magazines are used in mass shootings far too often. In the U.S., between 2009 and 2020, the 10 mass shootings that occurred with the most casualties all involved a firearm that had a high-capacity magazine, an assault weapon, or both. The proposed ordinance itself recites the most recent 12 incidents of mass shooting that involved assault weapons, specifically a semi-automatic rifle and large-capacity magazine. So assault weapons are weapons of war. Weapons of war have no place in our communities and should not be available for public consumption. They are, in fact, 7 states that already ban the purchase of assault weapons, and there is a body of research that shows that the single best predictor of mass shooting rates in a state is whether or not a state has a large capacity ammunition magazine ban. I'm going to quickly address several arguments that have been presented tonight. They say that we need more weapons to protect ourselves. Considering the sheer number of weapons available in the US, our nation should be the safest nation in the world. But in fact, we are not the safest. Americans are 25 times more likely to die by a firearm than any other developed nation in the world. They say, don't ban assault weapons because it's really about mental health. Considering the number of mass shootings in our nation, our country must have an absolute monopoly on mental illness. Perhaps it's only Americans that have serious mental illness. But we know that's not true. Mental illness is a human condition that happens to many people all over the world. The reason why we have so many mass shootings is due to the access to weapons, like another person stated, and who has access to weapons, particularly assault weapons and large capacity magazines that our country currently allows and allows in abundance. There is no constitutional right that says that we have a right to a semi-automatic rifle with a large capacity magazine. The Constitution states well-regulated militia for a reason, and this is a reasonable regulation to ban the commercial sale of weapons of war, because my children's right to live, to freely attend school, to go to the mall, or a parade trumps any alleged right to an assault weapon. Here's another reason to move forward on this ban. There's real evidence to show that an assault weapons ban prevents gun violence. If our federal government is stymied and can't move forward on gun safety legislation, then it's up to the state legislatures to protect residents. And if the state cannot pass legislation, then local lawmakers like yourself should stand in the gap. Please stand up for your residents. Please stand up for communities neighboring yours, like mine. And please prioritize lives and move forward this proposed ordinance and vote in support. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nope. Are we done?
We are finished with our public
Anybody
comment.
else?
I want to thank you all for your comments this evening. We will continue with a board discussion, and there's no voting on this evening. Any comments from the board? Hearing none.
I think.
Pardon me?
I think there is some.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't hear anything.
From the board. Just give us a chance to kind of collect ourselves and.
Okay. Do we need a 5-minute break?
That'd be great.
That would be helpful.
That would be helpful. Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break. The mayor needs it.
Great.
And then we'll have some discussion. Thank you. I do appreciate everyone showing up tonight. joke.
Welcome back, everybody.
Thanks, I needed that.
Time is 8:42.
Okay, we will reconvene. Christie, if you would call the roll.
We don't need a roll? Or would it just be here? All right, Trustee Gutierrez.
Here.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, Gutierrez.
Trustee Gutierrez.
You look
Your
pretty.
voice changed.
I sound wonderful, but I would never be a Sox fan, so sorry. I know.
Oh, don't start that.
Yes.
All
I'm
right,
here.
Trustee Gutierrez.
I'm here.
Trustee Porter.
I think I'm here.
Okay, good. Trustee Kemper.
Here.
Trustee Bancole.
Here.
Trustee Prigi.
Here.
And Trustee Husani.
Here.
Everybody's back.
Good.
Albert sound well.
All right, we're board discussion. We've heard input from many residents and others. It's always good to hear balance on both sides of the issue. So I continue to hear from my board. So who would like to start?
I can start.
Okay. Yasmin, trustee.
So I know many people here tonight are from this community, not from this community. And so just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Yasmin Bancole. I serve as a trustee on this board, and as a duly elected member of this board, I, no matter the issue, no matter the side, I will always listen to the thoughts, the concerns, the opinions, the ideas of our residents and of the residents of neighboring towns. And so for the people that came out tonight to speak, to provide us with their thoughts, I do thank you. While many people were, while we had presentations, while we had speeches, I did take notes. There was a lot to digest, a lot to process, and so I wanted to make sure that I was adequately, making sure that I documented the concerns that have been brought before the board today. So many people talked about the need for safety, the need for keeping our children safe. There was a couple of things that were mentioned that I'd never heard of that I will look into because they were brought before the board. And there were just a couple of the things that were brought before us that I would like to hone in and draw attention to. When we talk about education, because I think education is important and it's vital concerning this matter, when we talk about mental health, when we talk about crime prevention, these are all tools in the toolbox to ultimately ending gun violence. They aren't the be-all to end-all. And this ordinance that is banning the sales of this particular weapon is another tool to ultimately ending gun violence. I know that there was a mention of our police force and different police forces and different communities and different narratives or different rhetorics that have been talked about police forces. We in Hanover Park have a world-class police department. And I want to do everything in my power to protect them. And so, because I want to do everything in my power to protect them, I want to make sure that they never have to experience something like Uvalde. I want to do everything in my power as a trustee to make sure, like situations such as what happened in Uvalde or Buffalo or San Bernardino, or pick a town that is experiencing a mass shooting. I want to do everything in my power to make sure that not only happens here, but that our police department doesn't have to go through that. Someone said tonight that passing this ordinance will do nothing. I disagree. I believe that this ordinance will save lives. It will not save all the lives. It will save some lives, but that is the best that we can do. And I continue to call upon my state electeds and my federal electeds to do the work in combating gun violence. But until that work is codified into law, I believe that the local level and local leadership and local electeds can lead on this issue. As an elected, I will do everything in my power to ensure the collective safety of our community, of our residents, of our businesses, of our schools, of our children. I just think that it is of the utmost importance that we act. I believe that gun violence and mass shootings have become a new normal in our country. And I think it is insanity to witness these events happen over and over and over again and not take action. This ordinance is a real and tangible solution. And like I stated before, it will save lives. I think about the fact that we are in August and that schools are opening back up. And I think about our precious children, and I think about all of the shootings, the mass shootings that have happened in schools, and I cannot fathom something like that happening in our community. Again, I will continue to do everything in my power to support our residents, to support the health and the well-being of our residents, and that comes in the form of public safety and ensuring that Hanover Park is a place that continually uses all the tools that is available to them in ensuring safety. I want to, I guess, close by saying that one of the written statements by a reverend that was read by our clerk, the reverend mentioned somewhere today, someone is planning the next mass shooting. And the question here tonight is, does Hanover Park want to be involved in the sale of a weapon that may ultimately end up in the next mass shooting?
Prosecute Barack Obama for the president's program then.
Continue, please.
Again, I want to thank all of the people that have spoken tonight, all of the comments. These are things that I personally will take into consideration. but I just believe that public safety is the utmost importance, and I am going to do everything in my power to make sure that that is something that continues in Hanover Park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me thank everyone for coming out on both sides of the issue. I respect everyone's opinion, everyone's position. I am here to advocate for this ordinance as one of the originators of this ordinance and this movement, along with my fellow trustees here on the board. Just a couple of things that I want to mention. The Second Amendment has been brought up quite frequently, and that this is somehow a very egregious breach of the Second Amendment. And we've all have read and heard it quoted. But one of the most conservative justices in modern times, Justice Anton Scalia, stated that, like most rights, the Second Amendment is not unlimited. It is not a right to keep and carry any weapon whatsoever in any manner whatsoever and for whatever purpose. So it's not unlimited. It's not something that is written in stone and cannot be regulated. In fact, the Second Amendment speaks to the fact, and someone mentioned that, it says a well-regulated militia. And in the Constitution, there are a couple of clauses, Article Section 8C 15.1, Congress's power to call militias. That power was originally granted to the Congress. To call a militia after the Revolutionary War was for citizens that, in the case of national defense, that Congress could then call the militia, that the militia, those citizens would have arms, and they would then be able to be called by Congress as a militia. But it was also Congress's responsibility to supply those arms to make sure that they all had the arms. So it was not individuals going out purchasing arms and doing that ad hoc and on their own. So, you know, some of these arguments that we've heard bandied about don't historically hold to the actual history of the United States of America. The idea that we can have access to any arms and that there's no regulation, it says, notwithstanding one of the opinions, notwithstanding the lengthy opinions in Heller and McDonald, they technically ruled only that government may not ban the possession of handguns by civilians in their homes. Heller tentatively suggested a list of presumptively lawful regulations, including bans on the possession of firearms by felons, the mentally ill, bans on carrying firearms in sensitive places such as schools and government buildings, laws restricting the commercial sale of arms, bans on the concealed carry of firearms, and bans on weapons not typically possessed by law-abiding citizens for lawful purposes. Many issues remain open, and the lower courts have disagreed with one another about some of them, including important questions involving restrictions on carrying weapons in public. And we now know we have concealed carry laws. But there are regulations. You can't have fully automatic weapons. That's regulated against. You have to have a special license in order to have that. So you have to be licensed. It's regulated. You can't have grenades. You can't own grenades. You can't own explosives. You can't own launchers. You can't own flamethrowers. Those are all regulated. Those could very well, in an extreme sense, in an extreme mindset, be considered arms. But you can't have those. There's regulations that govern what we can and what we can't have. Someone also mentioned that criminals don't care about the law, and that by passing a law, it's only going to affect law-abiding citizens. Well, then what's the point in having laws at all if they don't have any detrimental impact on those who would break the law? You need the laws, and they are there for a purpose, or else we should just not have any laws and rely on the goodwill of law-abiding citizens to carry the day, and not have a police force, not have laws, not have anything, and just go to the days of the Wild Wild West, where it was every man for himself. And even then, there were towns that you couldn't carry guns in. There were towns during our most glorified gun days where you had to check your guns at the border of town before you could enter in. There have always been regulations on guns. Why are we doing this here in Hanover Park? We're not just doing this for Hanover Park, but this is for all of our neighboring communities, because it's been stated that the purchasers and the people who will utilize this product and buy this product at Gun Range USA, they'll come from all over. They won't be just, in fact, most of them probably won't be Hanover Park residents. They probably will come from Carroll Stream. They'll come from Geneva, and they'll come from Bartlett, and they'll come from other communities that don't have gun stores. They'll come here, and then they'll return to those communities, and then by chance, those legally purchased weapons can end in the wrong hands and tragedy can strike. So it's not just a matter of preventing something from happening here in Hanover Park, but it's for the safety of the whole region that we look at banning this weapon and not having it. Finally, we are not advocating for the ban of anything. What we are advocating for is not allowing the sale of a particular product in a particular store within our community, which is well within our rights as a home rule community to govern what can be sold and what can't be sold here in our community. You can have an AR-15 and AK-47 or any other type of weapon that you want. You can possess that. We're just saying that you won't be able to buy it here in Hanover Park at this operation that is now here. If you want to go up to Dundee to the gun range there, if you want to go to the gun doctor in Addison or Roselle or some of these other places, or even to the USA Gun Range USA in Naperville, you can go there and buy it, and you can bring it back home to Hanover Park, and you can have your weapon. But we are advocating that we will not allow the sale of these weapons here in Hanover Park, because we will not be on the wrong side of history when this is all said and done. We will not be a part of the dissemination and the distribution of weapons of mass destruction, because we, as responsible board members, put the lives and safety of our children over some glorified Second Amendment right that somehow would take away our freedoms, our most sacred freedoms. The Second Amendment is not holy. It is an amendment among many amendments within our Constitution. It is but one amendment, and I don't want to fight the Second Amendment battle, but we will say that we will not allow the sale of these weapons here in Hanover Park. We think that it does nothing for the safety of our community, of our children, and of our citizenship at large. So for that reason, I stand in favor of supporting this ban on the sale of the commercial sale of the assault weapons and large capacity magazines by adding a new section 66-17.5 to Chapter 66 of the Municipal Code of Hanover Park.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other trustees? Anyone else wish to speak?
Yeah.
Okay, Trustee Kemper.
All right. So we talked about well-regulated militia. Definition of regulated militia back in the 18th century is much different than it is interpreted today. Back then, nothing was regulated in our sense in the word. There was no actual regulation like we know of them today. Well-regulated meant it functioned well, well-regulated business, or one that is operated efficiently, considered that a well-regulated gun was one that worked right. A well-regulated militia would be a group of people who could unite together and act in a cohesive unit to protect against threats, foreign and domestic. Okay, the other argument is, well, they didn't anticipate the advancement of weaponry. That's not a good argument either, because weapons advanced during the Revolutionary War, before the amendment was written. So they purposely witnessed rifles, well, muskets becoming rifles, et cetera, et cetera. So advancement of weaponry was part of it. There's nothing in the Constitution that regulates the advancement of weaponry, and for people to be able to stand up to, you know, an enemy, foreign or domestic, they would be required to have the ability to, with the weaponry, to fight them with. And the First Amendment didn't foresee computers, didn't foresee a lot of cell phones, okay? That's an advancement in technology, okay? Back then it was a quilt or a printing press, okay? Those were the forms of communication back then. Technology brings new things. In the previous meeting, I talked about school shootings, mass shootings. The majority, which was stated by one of the ladies here that spoke earlier, the majority of them are handguns. In Chicago, we have multiple mass shootings every weekend, and I'll guarantee you none of them are with the AR-15 or those type of rifles. They're done with handguns. And now you have your gangs that are converting handguns from semi-automatic to fully automatic by purchasing a device and drilling and modifying the handgun to become fully automatic, which is a federal crime. It's illegal. Okay. The definition of mass shooting is anything that more than 2 people or more. When I talked about school shootings, the worst school shooting in the history of this country, Virginia Tech, the shooter there had no rifle, period. It was all handguns, 9mm and a .22. The very first school shooting, Texas A&M University, I believe it was 1969, a single bolt action rifle. It doesn't matter what the tool is, they will find a tool to use it. Anyone that wants to do it is going to find a tool. 3 hours after our last board meeting, at 2 a.m. in the morning, there was a mass stabbing on the Red Line. Mass stabbings happen quite frequently, more often you believe than not. And as far as like countries like England, London has a stabbing problem like Chicago has a shooting problem. So it's not the tool, it's the person. And the criminals need to be dealt with. 14% of our children today are taking drugs because of mental illness. Okay, and that probably doesn't include ADHD and ADD. That is a big problem. 14% of our children today, and the results coming out of Penn State University, which I believe I heard talks about it last week, is these drugs are actually causing these children as they grow older because it's affecting the development of their mind to become actually more violent and more aggressive. So there's a lot of things that need to be looked at. Not just the tool. The culture needs to be looked at. Because there's something wrong in our culture today that brought us where we're at today. And it's not the gun, because the gun has been here since the inception of this country. Semi-automatic rifles have been here since World War II, actually prior to that. And they've been available to the public since then. So what's the problem? The problem is not the tool. The problem is the people that use the tool in this way. So why do we want to try and minimize the rights of American citizens that are law-abiding? Why do we want to try to minimize our constitutional rights? And, you know, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I've slowly watched things digress with our rights. Little by little, piece by piece, rights have been taken away from us. Political correctness is a right against, it goes against our First Amendment as free speech because it regulates speech. I mean, hate speech isn't nice, but it's part of free speech. I firmly stand against this bill. And as a veteran, my oath is to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. That oath does not end. It was an oath taken and invoked with God. That oath does not end, and I will put my life on the line to defend the Constitution in all aspects. My oath of office, even though when we give our oath of office, we don't invoke God, but I did, all 3 terms. No one else here has. No one else invoked God on their oath. My oath is forever binding, and I'm responsible to answer to God. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Trustee Kemper. Anyone else? Trustee Bassani?
I just want to thank everybody who came out and spoke. It is really important to have a discussion. My idea initially was to have a referendum and ask Hanover Park community, what do they think? Should we have a ban or should we not? And if I have to take a vote today, a majority would say, don't do this. So it's just what the hall represent here. But for some reason, we cannot do a referendum, and that's what I understand as to we cannot put it on a ballot to ask the community what needs to be done. I heard both sides, and every time I hear that we could solve a situation or an issue, I don't think we can with this ordinance that we put front right now. And we all know that. I think we're making a statement. That's what we are doing. We want others to know that this is not acceptable. But when we stop this, where are we going with this? AR-15s and assault-type weapons and whatever we want to name it. One name is not correct. The other one says it's correct. Whatever we want to name it. We don't talk about, I was just thinking about what Trustee Kemper just alluded to, that how many crime that happens using a gun in Chicago. I actually stopped listening to the news because first 15 minutes we'll talk about how many people got killed because of the gun violence. We don't talk about it. We only talk about this major AR-15s that, that happened, that it's, shouldn't happen. In either way, it shouldn't happen. None of the crime should happen, but it's happening. We're only talking about that. But a lot more is happening every single day, 5, 6 people getting killed that we hear right here locally in Chicago. And those are handguns. So now if we say AR-15 are banned, tomorrow we're going to say handguns are banned? Well, I want to protect that Second Amendment. I was excited about, and I am still excited about having a gun range here in Hanover Park, and I mentioned that to many people that I want to get my FOIA card from the gun range right here. That is my right, and I want to protect myself and family. So I am literally hearing everybody, and majority of it, the Hanover Park local community is putting forefront that, ban is something they're not interested in. So that's what I'm going by. That's what I would say.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I too have a void card, and
Trustee Prigge, go ahead.
yeah, to me, banning sale here in Hanover Park won't solve anything, unfortunately. We can ban it and be sold here, but that they can go to any neighboring community and buy it there and bring it in here.
Can you get the mic a little closer?
So that's my take on it, is I don't think just a ban in Hanover Park isn't going to solve anything. It's to me, it's just a Band-Aid.
Thank you, Trustee Prigge. Trustee.
Hi.
Please. Gutierrez, please.
No, call me Trustee Porter.
You mean Trustee Porter?
Well, first of all, thank you, everybody, for coming out. I really wish we had more Hanover Park residents here, because they're the ones that have been calling us and talking to us. But thank you. It takes bravery to do that, and I appreciate the discussion. I really do, and I've been enlightened. I'm also very sad that we have to have this discussion. A couple of things that worry me are when I hear people saying that they have to take police work into their hands because law enforcement morale is so low. We have an excellent department here, and I never want to take your jobs into my hand. I've worked closely with you, and I've worked in police departments, and I appreciate the work they do. It saddens me when I hear only 0.1% were killed, only 0.5%. Let's not relegate this to a 0% of anything. This was someone's life. This was someone's child. It saddens me to hear that compassion has no place in lawmaking, when in fact compassion in this sense involves taking to heart the interest of all involved, of everybody. And it saddens me to say, so what? The bad people are still going to do it, so what's the point, etc. All of that saddens me because that tells me that we kind of gave up a little bit there. When we asked for this gun ordinance, I came in here seeking an ordinance amongst other. We're looking for a solution, and Mayor, you and I have had this discussion several times. Well, what is the solution? What can we do? What can we do? This ordinance is but one of many things that can be done. I don't think, Trustee Kemper, that we can fix culture. I wish we could. I wish we could. But as a Christian, I believe you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And so I wonder, what can we do? Perhaps it is this ordinance, and perhaps all it does is send a message, and perhaps maybe it does stop one, and perhaps maybe it'll stop somebody from saying, yeah, I did it, and I bought that gun in Hanover Park. I don't know. Perhaps there's something else. You mentioned a referendum. I don't know what the solution is. But I want people to know that Hanover Park is looking at it, that we are listening, and that we're working for you. And I have to say that I am so very proud of my board who have taken time to research, to meet with our legislative representatives and senators, and gone across to other town halls and talked to other mayors to find out, and then they knocked on doors to find out what is best. So don't think that they sit here just wanting to make a law to stop someone from owning this gun. And please understand, it's not just guns. It's just they're saying it is a particular gun that they wish you to buy in some other location. And I tend to agree with them. Is that the answer? I don't know. But I like to look at all of our possibilities. I've read this ordinance. I believe it is well written. I know some of the people that worked on this. I trust their intuition, their experience, their knowledge and education. And so today I leave here kind of the same, thinking, okay, what are we going to do? How do we fix this? How do we fix this? As someone who grew up in Chicago, I don't have to tell you how many bullets I used to collect on the front steps of my Humble Park home. I don't have to tell you how many times my mother's cars got shot. I don't want to tell you what was done to my brothers. But I know that something has to happen. Something has to happen. And so I appreciate the discussion. And I look forward to learning more. I don't know what the answer here is. But I really do like this ordinance, and I know why it's done. It's not done to limit anybody's rights. It's done to hopefully save more than one life. Thank you.
Very good. Trustees have spoken. We have another, our next board meeting, we'll have the executive from Range USA here. I'd like to hear what he has to say, and I look forward to that. Then we have to figure out what our next steps are. I can tell you, having spoken to many mayors, I spent plenty of time speaking with my good friend, Nancy Rotering of Highland Park. She wrote a letter prior to the shooting in her own town, asking the governor and the leaders of the Senate and the House to release the preemption that is hanging over our head, where we can't pass an ordinance such as this. There's 3 Illinois State Supreme Court findings that include the sale of a weapon that restricts, that has restricted us. I'm of the mind, I'm a coalition kind of guy. I've created a coalition of communities from Elgin to Bensonville for the railroad. Coalitions can work strong, they can send a strong message. We need a strong message to our legislators to make sense of these regulations and laws. If nothing else, release us so we can make our own. The impact of passing such a regulation today is pretty clear. We're on everybody's lawsuit list, and what does that mean? I'm a pragmatic type of mayor. I'm pragmatic for the people of Hanover Park. We may not be able to build our fire station. We may not be able to continue to replace the water lines that need to be replaced in this town. We may not do a number of things. The streets is important. We are replacing more streets this year and last year than ever in the history of this town, and we're still behind. We have to stay focused on our community and the cost and not take those away because of frivolous lawsuits or frivolous ordinances. I will work with Nancy Rotering to move on a coalition to make sense, the legislator to make sense of this law. I expect that they will take some kind of sense on this during their lame duck session because they're going to struggle between now and then. And so with that, I will move on. We've all been heard. We will decide what our next steps are at the next meeting. And I know, Trustee Gutierrez, you won't be there. We'll be thinking of you as you take your daughter to college. I know, that's taking my daughter to college. We couldn't leave her for 10 hours. So with that, I want to thank everyone for coming. I want to thank this board for the discussion as we move on. 7812, move to approve warrant 84-2022 in the amount of $374,176.49.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez? Yes. Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. 7813, move to approve warrant paid in advance 7/15/2022 through 7/28/2022 in the amount of $1,132,294.17.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
And Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Thank you.
7814, move to approve June 2022 P cards in the amount of $20,506.36.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Gutierrez? Yes. Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole? Yes. Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Excellent.
Thank you. Village Manager's report. Thank you. Village Clerk's report.
Just wanted to share again about the car show coming up on Sunday. Residents are welcome from noon to 4, and cars can start setting up between 9 and noon. We're looking forward to the Midwest Star Cars coming to join us with a ton of fun. Ghostbuster, Kitty, and all kinds of fun friends are going to be there. So come out and visit us. Bring your family, friends. It's free. Come join us. It'll be a fun time.
Thank you for all your work, Christie, on that show.
Absolutely. A lot of fun.
Village Trustee reports. Trustee Priggy.
No report.
What did you say? What did you say?
No report.
Oh, thank you. Trustee Husani?
Development Commission have a hearing scheduled for August 11th at 7 p.m. For the drive-through for the new place Arby's. So just FYI.
I have sometimes, you have a what?
Development Commission have a scheduled hearing next week Thursday, that's August 11th. That's it.
And you head up that committee?
Yes.
Thank you for bringing the event through that we discussed earlier on the placement of the ordinance, so it's good work.
I was at my son's college just today, all day, DePaul. We all in that
Okay.
era.
Thank you.
I missed it, sorry.
I also missed the Corporation Council report.
I normally don't give a report, but something very good happened, and I thought I would share that with you if you don't know. And that is one of my childhood heroes, whose name is Santorino Oresta Armas Miniminoso Arietta, was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Finally.
And I'm very pleased about that.
Yes, he was quite a player. As a Cubs fan, I even appreciated Minnie Minoso, so thank you for that. Trustee Gutierrez.
Yes, so I just have 4 quick things, and one of them is a question. So today we amended some of the minutes, right? So when we do the amending of the minutes, the recording there stays the same, or do we?
I'm sorry, say that again?
So when you amend the minutes, do the recording stays the same, or?
The recording always stays the same. It's always live.
Okay, all right. All right, so the CIDC, this is going to be my first meeting with CIDC, and it's going to be on Tuesday, and it's taking place at the clubhouse at Tanglewood. So at 6:30, we're going to be there. I'm excited.
That's early.
I'm sorry?
In the morning?
6:30 p.m., sir. 6:30 a.m. That's funny. Then the Historic Committee has been working on the plaques for our historic buildings for our Ontarioville Plaza area. We're looking at that, the buildings that we want to honor with those plaques. And the display case has been updated with info on Anna Merrick. And if you have any information on this wonderful lady that you want to share, please let us know. Also want to note that the Sister Cities display has not been updated. So just want to say that.
That comes under
Kemper.
your purview.
No.
What display?
This one right
The Sister Cities display
Yeah?
has not been updated.
Since when?
Oh, since about half a year now.
That comes under your purview, I see.
That's, I'm just saying, no, that's Sister, I think that's Kemper's. That's Kemper's display, so.
No,
just-
it's not Kemper's display.
No,
That's
it's-
our display, yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, sir, that one just got updated again, mine, just so you know.
You guys work it out after meeting.
She's counting.
And then just finally, thank you to our board members. I said this already. I know that you've been working hard and emailing and calling people and getting educated on this stuff. And I hope that our public doesn't ever take for granted that we sit here and some of us work, and I know I can say for Trustee Bancola, this woman works extra hours, and our clerk, you know, for all the work she does, all the hours she puts, you know, and all the little ones that she has at home. So I just want to say thank you. And
That's
that's it.
nice. Thank you. You're a kind person. Trustee Porter.
Just very appreciative of the conversation that we had tonight, and I look forward to furthering this conversation, and hopefully the village will find itself on the right side of history when this is all said and done in terms of our position on the assault weapons ban. I think the time is now to take the action, and I think it's up to the municipalities and the local government to lead on this issue. I think if we lead on the issue, then we will put pressure on our state legislators and our federal legislators to fall in line and to take actions as well. So I will continue to be at the forefront of this, regardless of how this vote goes. I will continue my efforts to be an opponent of the proliferation of assault weapons and weapons of mass destruction in our community, which is proven to be very harmful to our way of life, and I'm committed to that. Thank the board. I think the Cops Day picnic was an overwhelming success. It was rescheduled and kind of put together on a downscaled level, but it was so much fun. The kids really enjoyed it. The movie was excellent. The vendors that were there, the different attractions, it was very nicely done, and my congratulations and hat goes off to you, Chief Johnson, and your department, also to TJ and your department, Public Works, for pulling together the logistics of that and making that work. It just shows what we can do and what a unified community Hanover Park really is. We may have some disagreements on some of those type of issues here on the dais, but we are a working, functioning, well-functioning community, and I'm very proud to be a part and to represent this community and our administration for all of the hard work that they do in doing this. We do have the auto show, which has been mentioned, that will be coming up this Sunday, and they're going all out with some very special things, special attractions and different cars that are going to be available. And that's always been one of our premier events, and I'm looking forward to having another successful event as we continue to try to provide the best for our community in terms of safety, entertainment, quality services, in all areas and all aspects. We are really committed to making sure that Hanover Park is a quality place to raise your family, to own a business, to educate your children, and truly live up to the ideal of being America's global village. Someone kind of cast aspersion on the fact that we call ourselves America's global village. I'm very proud of that. I think it's very aspirational, and I think every month, every day, we live up to that, and we try to prove that in our actions. And so for that, I am proud to be a member of this board, and I am proud to be associated with each and every member on this board. I consider them all colleagues and friends, and nothing will ever change that. So that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Trustee. Trustee Kemper.
Trustee Porter, I have to agree with that, everything you said except the part that is on the but you're always going to be that advocate, and I'm always going to be the advocate on the other side. And I respect your position, and I know you respect mine. With that, you forgot one thing. We had our sister city's 30th anniversary dinner.
I left that for you.
Last Friday. So our sister cities is 30 years old. I'm proud to be a part of that group, even though I'm board liaison. In the next 8 months, I hope to be a member, not as I come to the end of my elected term. So it was great. I was honored to be there for that dinner. I'm looking forward to our car show on Sunday. And I just want to remind you all, it's all on your calendars. My block party on Saturday, okay? It's probably one of the largest and probably the most diverse block parties that you're going to find in Hanover Park. We're going to have an abundance of food.
I always look forward to your block party.
Right. Beverages, however, bring your own. Okay. There will be water and soda, but anything else, bring your own.
We're hitting your liquor bar, Jim. Don't worry about it.
So, and also with that, Trustee Hassani, when you're ready to go to the range, let me know. Okay? And with that, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Trustee Bancole,
Yes.
you have the final word.
Okay. Thank you. Recently, I was proud to stand along with Mayor Craig, Congressman Christian Morthy, and some of our local electeds to oppose the Canadian Pacific and Kansas City Southern Rail merger. Many of us have spoken about the negative impacts that this merger will have on our surrounding communities with Hanover Park. It will go right through our up-and-coming downtown area and may increase freight train traffic, noise, and air pollution, and may also impact first responders in communities that may only have one fire station. So I did just want to make our residents know that a press event did recently occur on that event. Sorry. A resident recently asked me about property tax appeals, and that reminded me that if you are a Hanover Park resident that lives in Cook County, the deadline to appeal your assessment is rapidly approaching. And if you live in Hanover Township, you have 4 more days. The deadline is August 8th. And if you live in Schaumburg Township, the deadline is August 25th. So please be aware of that.
May I jump in? May I interrupt?
Uh-huh.
Thank you. On August 22nd, I'm with John Lawson, who's the assessor for Schaumburg Township. We'll be together. I think it's in the high school, Schaumburg High School. I will confirm that to the board, but I'm a part of that assessment process. So
Okay.
we'll be kicking that off. So thank you for mentioning that. I missed that earlier.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, no problem. I did also want to let people know, if they didn't know, that you can now order your 3rd round of COVID tests from the government. So you could. This is something that I don't think was publicized, but COVID cases are steadily on the rise again, and so you can order those COVID tests again, free from the government. It's at covid.gov/tests, so just wanted to make sure people are aware of that. I was sad that I couldn't attend the rain date for the Cops Picnic, but I saw the plethora of pictures that were posted online. It looked like a great event. I spent so much time on Facebook just liking all the photos because they were so great. So my hat's off to our police department and all of the departments that helped make that event a success. I also want to just mention that a week ago I attended an event in the Greenbrook, Tanglewood area that was set up by DuPage Habitat for Humanity and the Kenneth Young Center. And the event, I believe I spoke about it at the previous board meeting, but the event was really just to get the community's feedback about like revitalization and beautification efforts. And they handed out free school supplies, and they almost ran out of the supplies. I mean, they were a hit. The event was so well attended. And so, again, my hat's off to those 2 organizations. They really do so much in our community, and I am so thankful for all their efforts. The last thing that I will touch on is that I too am also, very proud to be a part of this board and to have robust discussions about things that are sometimes difficult to talk about. And tonight's was just about our ordinance. Since I initially asked that we move forward with an ordinance in the beginning of June, I have spent so much time meeting with those at the county level, those at the state level, those at the federal level, advocating for laws that will just ultimately keep us safer. I will continue to always advocate for the safety of our community, and I think that I think the term frivolous was used when speaking about this ordinance. I don't ever think that something that may save lives can be deemed frivolous, or I don't ever think that something that may prevent a mass shooting is ever deemed frivolous. And it was also mentioned, someone said that compassion has no place in lawmaking. I disagree. I think compassion and empathy are of the utmost importance, because we all come from different walks of life, and if you can't empathize with someone, if you can't hear someone out that may be saying something that you don't agree with or see differently, then we'll never be a functioning society. We all have different makeups and different backgrounds, and compassion and empathy allow us to hear others out. And so for that, again, I'm thankful for this discussion. I'm also quite sad that we're doing things like this, right? Because if we're having discussions like this, if we have to enact ordinance like this, it means that there's something wrong, right? It means that something isn't working. And I will always use whatever voice or whatever power that I have to advocate for our residents. And so I will stop there.
Well, thank you. You had the last word. I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Christie?
Trustee Gutierrez? Yes. Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Meeting adjourns at 9:38.
Thank you all. I appreciate everyone's kindness, decorum, and willingness to listen.